Hey, we're going to cover some of our saws that we carry on our fire trucks. These are off engine 82. We're going over our steel chainsaw and our rotary saws. All of our engines and ladders should have these chainsaws. Some of the chains are a little different. We've got some carbide tips on the ladder, and I think the engines all have just regular chains on them. But we'll go over the process of starting both of them first, and then we'll cover some general maintenance ways we clean them up after a run and change the blades and change the saws, the chains and everything. So to go to start our chainsaw, we have a decompression button here, which is on both saws. So we'll push that decompression button in. You're able to start the saw without pushing that in, but it makes pulling the handle a lot easier. There are clicks on the back of this. You have to pull the trigger and push down on that, and that locks it into the starting position. Should take a couple pulls, it should fire. And we will push up to stop. When we first start, you'll have that pull down and it'll click. When you pull your trigger, it goes up into the run position. The down is kind of like a choke. When you pull the trigger and it's running, it'll go into its normal operating mode. And like I say, to stop it, you just push up on that and it stops it. We'll start this one real quick too while we're talking about starting. This one's a little different. It only has a on and off position. This is your decompression button, same as the other one. You want to push that to make it easier to pull. And to shut it off, it's just simple. Click up to shut it off. Good thing to know when you start these up, and we're checking them on a regular basis and everything, when we first start them up on our Friday checks or daily checks, whatever you want to do, is to let them run for a couple minutes just at an idle temperature to give the engine a time to get warmed up and everything instead of going full throttle right off the bat. That's not good on the engine. So even on a run, if you think you're going to use the chainsaws, have that operator pull them off the truck, start them up, just let them sit in the yard for a little bit, warming up. That way it gives the engine time to get good and warm. After we're done, you use them on a run. You notice coming in the mornings they're dirty or whatever, we can break the saws down, clean them up. And how we do that with our chainsaws is on all of our saws, you have two of these nuts here. That's how you take the cover off that gets to your chain and everything. So what we'll do, on the saws should be the wrench. You loosen them up. Be careful of this right here. You can definitely skin your knuckles and whatnot on that. And then there's a little flat-bladed screw in here, and that loosens up your bar. That'll move your bar back and forth. If you go back towards the saw, so turn it towards the saw, counterclockwise, that'll loosen up your chain. So you can see that gets a lot looser there. So we're just going to spin these nuts off. And they don't come all the way off. They're kind of cancellated in there. They're stuck in, so you can't lose them in that guard. So that cover comes off, and then you can see the whole clutch mechanism, the two chains. You can see there's a notch here when you take the bar on and off of where that goes, and that adjusts your bar so you get the proper tension on your blade. So then you can take this off, take the bar off, lay it out how you took it off. You can put chains on backwards. It's possible, and you won't get much cutting done if you don't put them on right. If you look at a chain, the cutting edge will be that little groove there. This is your depth gauge, and this is your cutting edge. When you put it on a bar, the chain goes over the top of the bar, so you need to make sure this tip is going to roll over the top. You put it on backwards, you're not going to cut anything. It's just going to sit there and spin. So looking at that before you get it off. If you take it off, just go through each of the pieces. Look sure you don't have any nicks, anything broken, any of those, anything that looks bad, and then if it does, we'll swap out the chain. To put it back on, you take and make sure the teeth on the back are in this clutch here. There's different grooves in the clutch. Make sure they're sitting on there. If you get a new chain, you might have to loosen up this bar a lot more than you did with an older chain, because they do stretch out over time. So you put it in the glide, you put it in the slide there of the bar. Like I say, sometimes you got to loosen up the chain a little bit more to get it back on. Then when you get it back on, you get it on the end of the bar right. You take and you'll adjust that out some so you can put your cover back on. You don't want to get it too tight. You just start those kind of with your fingers to get those started right. Once you get them started, tighten them down with the wrench. You have to leave a little, when you're tightening these down, you have to leave a little room to be able to adjust your chain to the right tension. So you don't want to tighten them all the way down, because you still want to be able to move that thing. When you check and you get your new bar on, or your new chain on, you need to pull up on the middle of your bar, on the middle of your chain here, and get the right tension on your blade. If it's too loose, it can fall off the end as you're operating it. If it's too tight, it won't run smoothly, and the chainsaw will bog down because you got too much tension on the chain. So you want to have about 3 or 4 of these little teeth showing when you pull up on it. You just see, I got it too tight because you can't adjust the bar. So you want to tension that. You want to slide that bar out to get the right tension. So that's good there. Push down on your chain. Push down on that when we're tightening these up. You don't have to get these crazy tight, but you want to make sure they don't loosen up while you're using the chain. Now, what I always like to do when I finally get that on is I take my tool. Don't use your hand because you can cut yourself. But I take my tool and I slide that thing to make sure it's in the saw good, make sure it's going to run and operate when we turn it on and want to use it. Another good thing to do, we'll talk about getting to the spark plug. If you can't get it started or something, we need to get to the spark plug, get the air filter, clean that all up. There's 3 screws. They're not on the top here. They're kind of quarter turn screws. Then we can get to our air filter, we can get to our spark plugs. There's different electrical connections here. If something's, if you're in here cleaning, something looks off or whatnot, you can take it out of service. To get our air filter off, on the back here, it's just kind of like a quarter turn lock on it. So you twist that way and you can feel it snap, and you take that off. You can blow that out. Just be careful not to get too close with an air gun, because you can break these and put holes in them. Pull this off. To get our spark plug, this is the tool also for our spark plugs. So you spin that spark plug out. And when you spin a spark plug out, if the chainsaw won't start, you can spin the spark plug out and look at it. Trying to start the saw, the spark plug should have a little bit of gas on it, should look a little wet. If it's dry, you've got a fuel issue. It's not getting fuel. If it's too wet, it's flooded. So you can pull the spark plug out, look at it. You want it to be a nice little white to brown color. If it's black, the saw's got some running issues also. So spin that back in. You should have extra spark plugs, extra chains, and all your saw bags on our pieces of equipment. When you tighten this down, like same thing, don't go crazy tight on it, but get it in there. And when you put it back on, you should hear a little pop as it goes back on. To put our filter back on, it's still that just quarter turn, feel it snap in, you should be good to go. These are kind of fun sometimes because you have to get the decompression button in the right spot to get them back on, but once you get it in there, it should fit in the right spot. Quarter turn, tighten those back down, you feel them snap. And you should be back good to go there. On our rotary saws, a little bit different.